anymore, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent of schools, Mr.
Everybody have a great Friday? Yeah. First of all, thank you for being here, being with us today. We wanted to give you what we thought was going to be a really awesome opportunity, because again, you as growing young adults, you're getting kind of your formal education here, your math, English, science, your social, all those pieces. But as you grow, obviously one of the things we're trying to do is turn you into responsible citizens that are ready to go out and play. And as you know, this is a very important time of the year in our town, in our county, in our state, in our country, because it's election season. And as you know, a lot of what goes on with our different government agencies drives a lot of what goes on in our towns, in our schools, and with our country. So we're very, very fortunate today to have Representative Madeleine with us, who is the current state representative and is running for U.S. Congress. And she wanted to come in and have really kind of a roundtable of students to hear from you and actually interact with her in terms of those things. What is important to you so that she can take it back to inform not only our state government, but hopefully our federal government as we go forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Representative Dean in about 2 seconds. One other thing, I just want to take a moment to introduction and thank Ms. Trey Hudson, who is our school board president, is with us. And Mr. Trey, another one of our board members is here, and again, they were integral in helping us get this opportunity for you guys. I want to be here to support not only Representative Dean, but all of you as students here at the North American High School. So, without further ado, a nice warm welcome for Madeleine Dean.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am delighted to be here, and I'm particularly delighted to be in the presence of the leaders that you have here at the school, our school board members, our president, Jay Hudson, Jay Ash. Thank you for your public service. I know how much you care so deeply about our schools and our students succeeding and succeeding well. Thank you, Superintendent Dormer. Thank you, Principal Roth. Thank you. To the other teachers here and guidance for these young people. I'm delighted to be here. So what I thought I'd do, if this is all right with you, I will give you a little bit of the lay of the land of who I am and what this race is about. I'll tell you a little bit about my work and my family and that kind of thing, and why this election cycle is so important. And it's also very historic on a number of levels. But then I really want to open it up to you for a conversation. I love the opportunity to be with young people. I taught at LaSalle University for 10 years, so for me this is such a wonderful experience to be with young people claiming their education and figuring out where you want to go in the world. So that's what we'll do. I'll talk for just a few minutes and then we'll open it up to you so I can learn more about you. Is that all right with it, you guys? Thank you so much for being here. So I'm Madeleine Dean. I'm a state representative. I'm a member of the Pennsylvania House, and I have been for 6 years. Before that, in my first career, I was a lawyer. I practiced law in both Philadelphia County and in Montgomery County. In my middle career, I taught at LaSalle University for 10 years. I taught in an English department. I taught writing. I loved teaching writing. I loved helping young people claim their words, make sound arguments, rely upon facts, and be persuasive about the things that they believe in. When I turned 50, however, I knew I wanted to run for office. I had always wanted to run for office. I wanted to be in public service, but it took me a little bit of a meandering path. So part of my story is the fact that if you worry that life doesn't work in a straight line all the time, don't worry about that at all. Because I believe that my work both as a lawyer and raising kids as a mom and then teaching at a university prepared me very well to serve in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. As a member of the Pennsylvania House, I fight for important issues, I think, to this community, to my community, to all of our families. So for example, I'll give you a selection of a few of them, and then we can figure out the issues that you want to talk about. I care deeply about education, how we educate our kids. The number one thing that I believe, as a government, have an important role to play in is the public education of our children. As a state legislator, I have fought for more dollars and more equity in the distribution of those dollars for our students across this Commonwealth. We have seen a cut. I was graduated from Abington High School back in the late 70s. We have seen a deterioration of state funding for education across the board. And you know that that makes it difficult for your communities. It makes it difficult for property owners because then their property taxes and their school taxes go up. So I have fought for greater dollars to education and greater equity so that the school districts have equal and the appropriate amount of funding for the children of folks who are not so well off versus the children of folks who are better off. That's my number one fight at the State House. I'll take that same fight to the federal house. Number two, the economy and jobs. I'm so excited for this chance to run for office, and I'll give you a little bit of the lay of the land on the race. But Montgomery County is a robust, diverse county. It's the third most populous county in the Commonwealth. We're an important county full of richness and diversity and opportunity, but that opportunity is not equal. So I want to grow jobs in the economy here through infrastructure development, through workforce training, and through fine education. Number three, I care about our environment. We know that climate change is real and that it is grave and that it is one of the greatest threats to our future. The Pennsylvania Constitution is something I always talk about. The Pennsylvania Constitution has one of the most beautiful amendments passed in 1971. And it says that we, the citizens of Pennsylvania, have the right to clean air, clean water, and the preservation of our natural aesthetic. Not just for us, but for future generations, like my granddaughter, who's in first grade, a 6.5-year-old. We owe it as legislators to protect our environment. I will take that same spirit to Washington, D.C. And how do you do that? You actually have to fund the agencies that protect our environment, like EPA. Probably you've noticed in the news that we had somebody in charge of EPA who didn't believe in the mission of the Environmental Protection Agency. In fact, he flouted it. He didn't care about it at all. Now we have a new interim secretary. So I'll fight for dollars to protect our environment through EPA and DEP at the state level, but also for public servants who believe that it is our sacred obligation to protect our environment and make sure it's available to all of us for generations to come. Another thing I care deeply about is ethics and good government. We know that an awful lot of people are pretty callous toward public servants, toward elected people. You think they're all corrupt, they're all in it for themselves. We're not. There are really good people of goodwill, and we have to model the absolute best of behavior. So as a state representative, I never took any perks, never took any per diems, never took a car or cell phone. I publish my expenses. I think I'm one of 2 members of the Pennsylvania House who actually does that. Every month I publish my expenses so anybody can look and see where any dollars went. I think I owe you that transparency and that accountability. And I'll end on 2 specific narrow areas that I think you might care about. And then I want to open it up to you. Well, I'll tell you a little about the race and then I'll open it up to you. 2 areas that I've been fighting about and to end are the epidemics of gun violence and opioid addiction and overdose. You know the tragic numbers. In this country, from gun violence, 33,000 people a year die of gun violence. 2/3 of those are suicide. It racks every community. Another 80,000 people are literally wounded, caught in the crossfire. That's 100,000 people a year. And of course that impacts their families and their communities. We have to do something about that. After the slaughter of Sandy Hook in 2012, I was a brand new legislator, and I started a caucus called the PA Save Caucus. But it's a tough fight in Harrisburg, I have to tell you. Our experience here in southeastern Pennsylvania is not shared by the rest of the state. So it's been incredibly difficult to get any legislation that I have authored or co-sponsored across the finish line. I will say to you, for the first time in the more than 6 years that I've been there, we just passed the first gun bill that will actually save lives. It's now going to the governor for signature. It has to do with domestic violence and getting guns away from those who are the subject of the PFA. So it's exciting. It is one important step, but we have a long way to go. And at the federal level, I actually know that the job is really to be done in Congress. I just have fought for it in the absence of leadership from Congress. So I'll take that same fight to DC. On the issue of opioid and addiction, just the disease of addiction, the numbers there are even more staggering. Last year, 72,000 people died last year of overdose. That's almost 300 people a day, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Every single day, nearly 300 people in this country die of overdose. It's in every community. It doesn't care if you're white or brown or black. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor. It doesn't care if you're young or old. It doesn't care your geography, any of your other credentials. It does not discriminate, and it is extraordinarily deadly. We have to shine a light on it. We have to destigmatize the disease of addiction. It is a disease, and we have to get more people into recovery. In terms of this race, and then I'll open it up to you. This is an exciting time in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you're aware of this, but early this year, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania threw out the congressional lines, the congressional districts, saying that they were palpably gerrymandered. And we'll discuss what gerrymandering means. And so they crafted and drew brand new districts. So one of the reasons I'm particularly excited to run is that Montgomery County, this is a picture, you can take a look at it later at your leisure. This is Montgomery County. Right now, Montgomery County is served by 5 congressmen, not one of whom lives in the district. That's because the district was purposely gerrymandered and carved up to dilute its power. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania said no more gerrymandering, and made Montgomery County, 97% of Montgomery County, a single seat, so that one congressman, I hope it is me, will be able to serve Montgomery County. We also pick a little piece of Berks County. This is a historic moment. We have not had a district like this in more than 35 years. This is a historic moment. The other historic, groundbreaking piece of this, you may be surprised to know, is that there are no women of our 18 congressmen in Pennsylvania and our 2 U.S. senators, so a 20-person federal delegation, not one is a woman. Can you imagine that, ladies? Not one is a woman. That's about to change this year. Pennsylvania is about to be the Keystone State again. We are being watched nationwide and frankly internationally for the fact that this is going to be the year of the woman. It is going to be the year that a lot of worthy women get across the finish line and will serve and change the face of Congress. So I'm looking forward to this run. I'm actually enjoying this run. I'm so thankful for the chance to be with you. And so why don't we, if it's okay with you, throw it open to questions, comments, things you care about, things you want to know more about. I'm here to talk with you.
With all the gun violence in schools, what kind of policies do you propose? Will show immediate change in school safety, gun safety, drug safety?
The question, with all the gun violence in the schools, what policy do I propose? I thank you for sharing that concern and school safety. You know what, after the Parkland shooting, I've been on this issue. I took my kids to the Million Mile March. I don't know if you guys know what that was, but it was back in, I think, 2000 or 2001. And my kids were then little. I have 3 grown sons now, but my kids were little. I took them down to Washington, D.C. We marched on the wall to talk to and to end gun violence. That's a long time ago now. We haven't done it, and obviously we've seen horrific spikes in gun violence. Oops. And we know that our schools no longer feel safe. I had a 6.5-year-old granddaughter who's in 1st grade. It shocked me to recognize that she actually has to go through active shooter drills. That's shocking to me. It's stunning. We ask more of our children than we do of responsible gun owners and than we do of the gun manufacturers. So specifically, the things that I propose are legislation to get at the illegal guns. I've introduced universal background check. Most people believe that we should have universal backgrounds. We don't right now. Pennsylvania has a leading hold on that system. I have introduced lost and stolen legislation, which would require the owner of a gun to simply report that he or she has lost it or it is stolen. That is to go against the straw purchaser, the purchaser who's legal to buy and then goes and sells the guns to those who are not legal. I've argued for and been a part of passage of dollars for safe schools, grants that are available to your school and to others from the state to fortify your schools and to make them safer. I am not in favor, just to be very clear, of arming teachers. I think that is an extraordinarily wrong-headed approach. It's an absurdity to me. What we need to arm teachers with is the best materials to educate young kids. They should not be involved in being armed. But our schools must be secure, and so dollars need to go toward that. But we have to get at the root of the problem also. But my goal is that all of you walk into your schools and you think nothing about your own personal safety, that you think you are in one of the safest places you can ever be. Sadly, we have not lived up to that. Thanks for the question. Yes?
How do you find to close the gap between resources in inner city schools versus like suburban schools? And do you plan to, or do you have any ideas for planning rehabilitation for instead of suspensions in schools to provide like behavior development support rather than just giving seats after 3 days?
I'd love to know more from you and from the experience in your schools, what goes on. When I told you originally, I fight for more dollars for education. I'll just give you some statistics, sad statistics. When I was a kid at Abington High School, the state support for schools, now this is across the state, on average was about 49%, and the local was about 50%, and the federal government comes in with a little more. Over the course of those last, sadly to admit to you, 40 years, state support for education has gone down. It's in the 30% range, which forces schools across the Commonwealth to either raise property taxes or do with less. Compounding that is the other problem that you recognize, that some school districts, Philadelphia, I would argue this school district, Pottstown School District, do not get equitable funding. We sadly hold the ranking, Pennsylvania holds the ranking of being 49th among states who have a great disparity in the educational dollars that go for the children of the poor versus the children who are not poor. Some of the stuff we've done at the legislative level is to try to balance that funding and to try to say that it must be proportionate and equitable. Unfortunately, and you know this, the president of the school board and board members know this, we were only able to get legislation that would equal prospective dollars, new money coming into the school, nothing to correct GOP. Compounding this also is the siphoning of money into charter schools and charter schools that take dollars out of the brick and mortar space. So we have a compounding of problems, inadequate funding, inequitable funding. And so people like me in my caucus, and I'll take the same fight to Washington, have to argue for the correct funding and equitable funding to create the balance. I think we have a moral obligation to do that. I know that how we educate our kids is going to make all the difference, not just in your life, but in the future of our world and of your citizenship. We have to fight number 1, 2, and 3, equitable and adequate education dollars.
So for college nowadays, they want like a more well-rounded student or individual. So is this money going to go towards the equal classes like algebra or like branch out in the clubs like music or arts?
Well, and I apologize, I forgot the second part of the question, which was behavioral health. We have to invest more in behavioral health, appropriate counseling, appropriate identifying of students that have needs. As you say, not just put them out for 3 days and then bring them back with no support and without adequate resources. In terms of a more well-rounded student, and I welcome you telling me your experience and what you're doing here. But for example, one of the problems that I saw that was very great at the time I came in to the state representative, I was elected in 2012. Governor Corbett was our governor. He cut nearly $1 billion out of education funding at the state level. That forced schools like this one to figure out, okay, we're going to cut back on music, we're going to cut back on art, we're going to cut back on AP classes, or what are we going to do? I think that is so misguided. We need to make sure that you all have a diverse experience, STEM experiences, cultural experiences, musical, an appreciation of all of our richness. So I hope your education is as diverse as possible. Speak maybe to your own experience here.
Yes, I'm in the band personally, like I'm president and stuff. So I've seen the decline. Back in the day, you could go out and like marching in the community. There was like a feeling, like you could see the band and like the artists around it, and now she died off like programs.
Are those programs
We're trying to build it
suffering
back
here?
up, and like we are, but it's so slow without all the funding yet.
We don't have a marching band?
We have like a pep band, kind of, not really. Like, we're trying. But
And it's lack of resources.
Resources, we have teachers, and they don't get paid to do it. Like, I don't know like all logistics, but pretty sure it's just like we want resources.
And I guess I have to tell you, it's heartbreaking, but also part of the excitement of why I'm running. That I know that there are pockets of need, and you are competing with school districts that have a whole lot of beautiful uniforms and marching band and all of the diverse and activities you would want to be involved in and be exposed to. So know that that's something that I can be good about, and making sure I'll fight and partner with state representatives and state senators and the governor, also at the federal level, to get more equitable funding here. I'm eager to hear more of your experiences and your thoughts and questions.
You said around 80 something of violence and suicide. I don't know how many of that are teens, but if it is a good percentage of teens doing suicide, and working on a stronger system for schools and mental health institutes.
Yeah, the statistics are terrible, and it was an eye-opener to me. I knew that we lost too many people to gun violence every year, but the numbers are 33,000 people die of gun violence. 2/3 of those, so 22,000 people a year in this country die of gun violence by suicide. We're not doing enough to support mental health identification and services. It relates to your colleague's question here. One of the saddest things that I saw during the time of the deep cuts to educational funding was the reduction of school counselors. I visited a school in Philadelphia that had one counselor a couple of days a week for hundreds of students, and then she needed to run over to another school. That's just wrong. How are you ever going to be able to identify students in need if you're stretched so very, very thin? One of the things that I think was very good about something that happened while I have been a state representative, you know that the Affordable Care Act was passed. The Affordable Care Act did get more people, more Pennsylvanians, access to physical health and mental health services. And when Governor Wolf expanded Medicaid, another 1 million people got coverage, and a couple 100,000 of those are coverage for addiction and mental health. But I'm pretty sure we don't do enough. And you're right, of those 22,000 people who die of suicide, sadly, many, many, many are young people. Could I maybe ask more about the experience here in terms of support and counseling and identification of mental health needs? How does that go here in Morristown? Five guidance counselors for 1,700 or 1,800 students. And do you find that you, as students, as fellow students, are reaching out a hand and trying to identify somebody who might be in need of help? Is there a system that you feel camaraderie or a concern?
We're not trained on health professionals.
But do you feel confident if you do refer somebody that they can get connected to the kind of help that they need?
Yeah, but no problem is like one is usually see the nurses, you have to pay more of us for that.
As I said, we like adult therapists. We do have finances, and they do an amazing job. But in terms of being swamped in the beginning of the year, they're very, let's say, burdened. They're helping students get to their classes on time. And then we have to, in the beginning, help seniors
so one person can't really do everything. Like as well, like our guidance counselors do try and help with and like try and regulate things, but like at the same time they don't have time to do everything for us. And some of us just don't know what to do.
And you think of the ratio of counselor to numbers of students, that's just an impossible task, impossible burden on the part of 5 counselors and 1 college career counselor. How many in the room are seniors? How many are 18? Anybody in the room 18 years old? Hope you're going to vote. Well, those are some sad numbers. And it refortifies me about my belief that we are not doing the right job. We have the obligation of the state to provide for public education is constitutional embedded. It is a constitutional obligation. And I've been arguing that, we are failing. We should be sued, frankly, because we are failing that constitutional obligation when we don't provide resources like you're talking about. I'm troubled to hear what you're saying, but I'm also pleased to be able to learn it a little more closely from you.
I'm branching a little bit out of your campaign ideas for your run and all that. I'm the son of 2 immigrants. Obviously, immigration is a big deal in this country right now. I just want to know what kind of policies can you at least run with Republicans and other party members and other members of Congress and all that to have a good plan for immigrant parents who have not committed any crimes or are contributing to the economy of the United States. What can you do for them and what can you do for us not have to worry anymore? Because for my part,
As a result of this run, and also as a result of the extraordinary, inhumane policy of separating children from their parents at the border by the Trump administration, it's so immoral. It is so un-American. It is so not what we should be doing that I don't know why everybody isn't still screaming and clamoring about it. So I took the time to go visit the border. And this is also juxtaposed against Donald Trump's belief that we need to spend billions of dollars poured into more walls. I'd like to see those billions of dollars poured into our schools. That would make the difference. So I went to the border in California. I also went to Berks County Detention Center, a family detention center, to see what's going on. We need immigration reform. We need to make sure we have policies that are clearly set forth so that the DACA children are provided a chance for citizenship, so that the dreamers are provided a chance for citizenship, so that your parents are provided a path for citizenship, and they're not driven into the shadows. That's why I support sanctuary schools and sanctuary cities. We know that we are less safe when we have police officers trying to enforce immigration rules. That's not their job, and it also makes the communities less safe. I'll work for and fight against an administration that wants to demonize the other, that wants to call anybody who looks any differently than himself the other and lesser. So I hope to just be a voice for positive, comprehensive, safe immigration reform, a recognition of the richness of our immigration throughout our history, and an encouragement that not only is it the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do to grow our economy. So I really wish you and your parents just the very, very best. Reach out to me if there's anything I can do.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, please.
So, adding on to this immigration thing, like where a bunch of immigrants come from and they barely speak the English language. Then we have the translators who are only limited to like French and Spanish some half the time. Like, what can you do to like really solve that to get more people to be able to understand the language that the parents or the grandparents are speaking? Because like I have a grandmother who stays with me barely most of the time, and then my grandfather who's with me every day. And like there are people who come to our doors and ask us things and I can barely translate it because I memorize the language but I don't remember it as well as it.
And where did they come from? What is the language?
It's in Africa, called Ghana.
I guess unfortunately that goes back to the notion of resources. If we as a community, if we as a society want to actually make sure that we are communicating and educating well, then we will put in place translators and teachers of these other languages. We see this in my district office. We have people who come in. I have a district office as a state representative in Abington. And so we have people who come in and we can access through the state translation when we're trying to help somebody whose language we do not understand. But we are fairly limited with that as well. So again, I think it's resources. I think it's an appreciation of the richness that your grandparents and others bring to this country. And it goes directly toward budgets. I'm a member of the Appropriations Committee in the Pennsylvania House. I love my work there because that's where you see every line item of the budget. You see every department come in, whether it is our Department of Education or it is the Department of Health, for example, because we know translation is so important in mental health, in physical and mental health services, in ERs, those kinds of things. Budgets reveal priorities, and so when we cheat resources to schools or to hospitals or to public services around immigration and language, we know what our priority is. Our priority is to dismiss or deny the others. So I'll just be a champion for the right kind of budgeting that puts the resources in place to boast of the richness of these languages and cultures and what they bring to our community. I know that's not totally satisfactory, but I hope you understand the spirit with which I approach our diversity. Anybody who I didn't get, I'll come right back to you if you don't mind. I want to make sure I get.
I do see a bit of a problem with getting students prepared for more so life, because in school you're more as well focused on the academic part of schools and everything, and I feel as though that a lot of times high school does not prepare you to get out there in life, to be able to pay bills, this, that, and third. I'm glad for like the business math classes and different things like that, but I feel as though that we need to engage students more in the aspects of life. And I do believe that the academic part is so important, but say if a student doesn't want to go to college or something, how do you think you can prepare them for life, and how do you think you can engage them more into studying into those fields?
I think that's great. Tell me about, you said you have a business math class that does give you some background in personal financing?
Yeah, so basically it's a different type of business math class, but in retrospect, they basically teach you about the proper ways to save up money, invest in stocks, and this, that, and the third. But I do believe that we do have a problem with getting students into those type of fields. So, like I said, that academic field is so important. However, there's still students out there that don't seem to understand that once they get out in life, it's a whole different playing field in school. So I feel as though we need to be more prepared likewise.
I agree, and I'm looking at your teachers and your administrators and your student work, and it just reminds me of the tremendous obligation and burden on your teachers to get you prepared for every aspect of life. And it goes back to everything we just talked about, the right resources. And so what I recognize that I didn't really say is, how do you pay for this kind of stuff? There are ways to pay for getting many more resources in here and making sure that your education is as well-rounded and complete as possible by the time you move here to preparing for it wherever you pay. And some of those places of getting those resources, take a look at what this administration did and boasts of. Gave more than $1 trillion in tax cuts to the top 1% of our country. More than $1 trillion. What if their focus was not on rewarding their super rich friends, but instead they said, here's where we're going to spend our money. We're going to put $500 billion into our schools. What if we did that? Then you'd have the counselors that you need. You'd have the curriculum that you deserve. It is about priorities. One of the things that I will fight for when I go is community college. Community college should be free. And people think that's pie in the sky. How do you want to make community college free? Guess what it would cost to make community college free across this country? I just told you about $1 trillion, more than $1 trillion in giveaways to the very, 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 very rich. You know what it would cost to make community college free for the next 10 years? About $60 billion. These are big numbers, but $60 billion compared to $1 trillion in tax giveaways, if that was our focus, community college would be free. And that's one of the places where you can learn the life skills if you can't get those courses complete by the time you're out of high school. We could do that if we prioritized it, but at this point, we're not prioritizing it. I and a whole lot of other colleagues, I hope, future colleagues, are going to get down to Washington and fight for those kinds of things so that we get the full, comprehensive kind of education that we all deserve. Gives you some sense of where I think that is? Yes.
So I'm getting ready to apply to college, like a lot of seniors, and I was talking to my college career counselor about like FAFSA and like other government-based money, and we were talking about like what my parents make and everything, and she told me that she doesn't think that I would be able to like get government money because my parents spend me too much. I personally think that that's not the truth. I feel like the government can just feel like everyone like a certain number, but they don't really look at what like parents have to pay for like for other kids, like not just what they need. So do you think like along with like because it goes along with like education and everything that it is a problem like how we're based like in numbers and everything?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely do. What I try to fight for is getting more students access to more education more affordably. So yes, the FAFSA box that they put your family and your family's income in is too rigid, is too narrow, doesn't really take into the full appreciation of how many kids are in the family, what are the other needs, whether it's health or whatever, and the numbers are too low. The flip side of that is if you wind up not qualifying for that kind of help, you wind up probably borrowing in order to claim your education. And our student debt, Pennsylvania student debt, is one of the highest problems we have. And of course, it's often at high interest rates. I think that's actually immoral and wrong and criminal. And the federal government profits from those high interest rates. What I would fight for, again, is sort of that budgetary piece. Instead of giving tax breaks to the very, very wealthy, why don't we make sure that A, you have the ability to qualify for aid, and B, that which is over that, it is interest-free. We could do that. If we made it our priority, we absolutely could do it. We could put the revenues toward it. So that's the kind of stuff that I'll fight for. And it's not just right for you at this time, it's the right thing to do long-term for all of our students. We want you to be the most educated you can be, so you will contribute to society. It's so stupid. We cut off our nose to spite our face when we cheat kids out of education or burden them and bury them in student loan debt. I have a nephew who went to law school, walked out with $300,000 in debt, high interest debt. His prospects of being able to pay that down and be able to buy a house and do the things that you want young people to do are very, very difficult. And that story is all across this county and all across the country. I guess if I could intersperse in here, what are some of you thinking of going on to study, or what is it that you want to do? What are some of the ambitions you have?
Firstly, I want to be a teacher and come back here and teach.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I love that! That's awesome!
And I see a lot of, like, what goes on camera goes on at other schools, especially around my class students. For instance, if they take the literature piece to graduate, there's a lot of students here that have trouble with English.
Yes.
So what help are they getting? Or like my cousin teaches in Philadelphia, and she had to personally fundraise money for a class at calculators because when they took the Keystone, they had to get them from other schools. So how are those kids, like, they're not even using calculators in class, so why would they need to know to pass the Keystone to graduate? It's just unfair.
Yeah, they're set up to fail.
And like some of our classrooms here, like we still use projectors and stuff. We don't even have smartphones in our classrooms. Or like we still chalkboards and stuff. It just makes no sense for like these schools that lower merit
legislation, and I hope you'll see it through. I'm pretty confident we will. I look forward to coming back here and seeing you teaching here.
Back to when you were talking about women.
Yes?
I know that as a woman, in a type of authority or position, you're pushed aside, not taken seriously compared to men. As the only woman to be in your position, is it a struggle running against all the men? Do you feel intimidated? Do you feel like you need to work harder than the rest that's running because you're a woman? And what do you say to the young generations of women who want to be where you are and want to like us?
Because I've never been anything but a woman, I don't know if you need to run as a man. But in my life, I've experienced some of the barriers that women feel. So I told you I was a lawyer as a young woman. I went to LaSalle University and then I went to Delaware Law School. And so I came out of Delaware Law School and I got a job in a field that was heavily male-dominated. I remember one of the first cases I had, I was making an opening argument, and seated next to me was a male, more middle-aged person. I was young, and he was more middle-aged. He interrupted my opening argument and said to the judge, maybe she should just go shopping. The judge was rightfully appalled, but that kind of dismissive nature. I went to another meeting as a young lawyer, and a man patted me on the head. Literally patted me on the head. I said, oh, nice to meet you. Like I was a puppy dog. So I patted him right back. That's the way I kind of absurd. That was just absurd. You know, the dismissive world that we're in. As a professor, and I say this in part to warn you and to call upon you young women. I remember as a young lawyer, some of the toughest people on me were women lawyers. So women, we have to support women. We have to lift up each other and not be sort of competing against one another. We do better when we lift one another up. And I remember it was very difficult. Whether I was teaching at a university, sometimes the women were the hardest on me. Sometimes the women as a lawyer were the hardest on me. Now I'm a legislator. I'm in Pennsylvania House, which is 203 people. It's a big legislative body. We're only 20% women. And so again, you face kind of those biases and just awkwardness. The men, it's pretty much mostly a white men's club. And they really sometimes don't know how to deal with us. The good news is a whole lot more women this time around. But I will say the barriers are there. They are very real. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the Supreme Court hearings. Have you been paying attention? It's hard to turn away, isn't it? I have to tell you, at my age, I was stunned at how far back we still are. That you heard Judge Kavanaugh make his opening statements and opening rounds of questions in front of the Senate committee. But then when a woman, Dr. Blasey Ford, came forward and told her story of sexual assault and named Judge Kavanaugh, did you notice the difference? Did you notice how she presented and how he then spoke? I actually was in the car driving, and so I had to hear it on the radio. So with the tones and the way they approached it was so starkly different. And so what you thought would have been reversed. She spoke thoughtfully, not hysterically, very factually, with, as she said, she was terrified, but she spoke well, clearly, and courageously. Then we heard him. And again, I wasn't watching, I was in the car. And he was petulant, he was petty, he was political, he was barking like he was a kid in college who had just been accused of something he didn't want anybody talking about. And he's 12 years a judge. His written statement, his opening statement was prepared. I think he disqualified himself simply in temperament, regardless of the underlying facts. He disqualified himself. But it depressed me to see how far back we've gone in the treatment of women. And then this administration, this president, went out and shamed her at public rallies, belittled her at public rallies. We have a long way to go in terms of equality on all fronts, but certainly in terms of gender equality. So what do I say all that to say, please, get your education, get out there and serve, run for school boards, run to be superintendents of schools. We need women at every table because we bring a different sensibility. Having said sort of that series of negative things, I have to tell you, I am so happy with my public service. I am not burdened every day with the fact that there are too few women in it, but it is such worthwhile work. So I really call upon any of you who have any interest in public service at any level and at every level to come forward. We need more women running.
Right alongside the lacking resources and whatnot, there's this not a sense of motivation in a lot of the students because they can recognize that they're at a disadvantage as far as being able to afford college and higher education. I have friends that when I talk about like what's next after high school, being seniors, like right now they're not trying because they know that one, they're not going to be able to afford anything. They don't believe that it's necessary to just put yourself into a situation where you're going to be paying for a debt your whole life. And they think, well, not that they think, like, I believe so too. Sometimes it's hard to want to reach for something that one inside of the system that you're being taught in. It's not, it doesn't match up with what we have to deal with in real life as well. The risks that come with it, like with one of the students was saying over there, we're not as prepared as, like when I compare what we're learning to learning in school with the problems that my parents had to face and the common problems on the table at home, they're not things that we're even taught to think about in school. And so that kind of just all adds to kids not even wanting to try. You know, it's not, a lot of students don't want to, like they don't care. They don't care because they know that it's more of a hassle trying to get into something that's not, you know, prepared for them. Like it's not for them. Like, people actually say school is not for them because of how it's set up. And it kind of sucks because we're put through school 12 years of our life just to, you know, it's like dropping oil in the ocean, how we are as students sometimes. And based on our backgrounds and where we come from, the different, I guess, levels, like there's a bunch of different kinds of people come to the same place. Like my opportunities at home may be different than my friends overall here. And so their reason for continuing education is all different. Like my question would be, how do you like change it? Like, what do you do in the school to make people want to or want to grab education other than just saying things? Because my parents have, you know, degrees and whatnot, but still find themselves in struggling situations that affect us as well as students. And so, with that being said, it just has people not motivated at all to even be in a learning environment because it doesn't seem to have any effect on our lives at all.
Well, thank you for that thoughtful statement. And I will ask maybe if teachers and principals and administrators can help me here, because I know that's your charge every day. How do we motivate every single one of you to do well here and to do the next step, whatever that step is? You know, whether it's community college, whether it's technical training, whether it's something in the healthcare field, whether it's to teach. And so I do want to call upon you to help me here. What I'm going to suggest to you is something that I think I didn't really know how to do when I was growing up. And recognize I come from a very different experience. And I'm aware of that. I'm a white woman. I'm even white skin. I know that I had some built-in privilege. I just know that. So I know that I can't speak to all of the experiences that you're talking about. But I can speak to how you get motivated. Or I hope I can speak to that. And something I kind of didn't do was I didn't identify a mentor. And so what I would say to you is take a look around. And you have teachers here, you have counselors here, you have administrators here, you have an uncle or a grandfather or somebody in the neighborhood. Identify them, latch on to that person to help you. Make sure you have that motivation so you don't feel so defeated before you start. It is, if you're talking about college debt, the burden of how the heck am I going to be able to get into school and pay for it? My parents can't do all of it. So look for mentors in your life. I should take back a little bit because I did have some mentors. I had a godmother who said to me, you can be anything you want to be. You know, that you're a girl, don't be defeated by that. Don't be held back by that. And maybe if I could ask the principal to give me a hand here.
Sure.
I struggle, I'm heartbroken by the notion that some young people, with everything in front of you, are burdened by the fact that maybe everything isn't in front of me. And how do I find my motivation? And how do I do it in a fiscally responsible way? And the other thing is to find where you want to be. That's the thing that I hope you are seeing. Doors and opportunities that maybe you wouldn't even think of. And I know schools partner with industry to get kids internships so you can experience being, you know, my husband's in the bike business, and young people come and do internships in his bicycle company. So that you might find out that, oh wow, I really like accounting, or I like marketing, or I like development or branding. So let me, if I can, call upon our principal.
Sure. So I think, you know, one, like what you said, it hits right here, right? You know, we're here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to try to help each and every one of you to kind of live out your dream. One of the things that I think we have to do a better job of is making sure that you guys have all the information that you can get in order to fulfill that dream. Something, you know, something like going to, I'll use this example. My wife is a counselor. My wife happened to be talking to someone from the University of San Francisco yesterday. They said to her, you know, we're opening an engineering program. We're specifically looking for female and minority students for our engineering program, right? That's the kind of thing that we have to do a better job of making sure that we know so that we can share that, right? Sometimes we settle, I think. I was in a meeting with a student yesterday who was talking about wanting to go to Harvard, but knowing that that's not realistic. The sad part about that is that Harvard will meet your need. The University of Pennsylvania will meet your need. The University of Michigan will meet your need. And sometimes the schools that we quote unquote settle for don't have the same resources to meet your needs, right? College is expensive. You know, I can relate to part of what you said as a first generation college student, as someone whose parents didn't have the first clue about what FAFSA was. My parents didn't apply for FAFSA because they didn't think they'd get any money. I lived in a house where we had our electricity shut off at times, and we could have gotten some money. There's so much opportunity out there, and there's so many places that are looking for, quite frankly, the people in this room. They're looking for, you know, African American students, for Hispanic students, for women. They're looking for people who are first generation college students. They're looking for people who maybe on paper don't seem like they would be the kid to fit in, but they know that your SAT score is less about your intelligence and more about the resources that we don't always have to get you that score that you need. So I guess long story short, because I don't want to take up the representative's time, is that a lot of these things are more realistic than we let you know they are. And that's on us, you know, to make sure that you know that. But, you know, that's also you guys being able to do your own homework too and dig in. There's a place. There's always a place, whether it's a college, a university, a trade school, a career, but you don't ever have to settle because of who you are and your background and what your family has. But we have to help you get there.
And just to piggyback on that, you know, what you said resonated with me a lot. Just, you know, growing up in a household where I wasn't aware of the opportunities. And one of the things that I learned, and I had to learn very early in life, is how to dig deep and find my fight. Because of who you are, because, you know, you have a system that's not exactly built to necessarily help you as much as you'd like it to. There are going to be times where you're going to want to give up, and you're going to want to lose that motivation. And sometimes you just have to push yourself a little bit further. And I'm telling you that because I know I've had many, many nights where I just had to sit down and talk to myself and say, okay, you know what? This is going to be hard. No, I didn't get into that school, or no, I can't afford this school. So what's my next step? And sometimes the journey is not going to look like you want it to look, but it all will end up in the same destination if you just take it one day at a time. So I encourage you to reach out to people, because that's how Vanessa got me through it. Find a mentor, find somebody who, has kind of done what you're looking to do. You can Google people. A lot of times, you can Google, hey, I'm interested in this. I mean, I have called professors interested or that work in a field that I was interested in and had solid conversations with them, just cold call, because they're happy to reach out and help somebody who's in a situation where they want to learn more. So, any of you, if you guys want to talk offline, I'm happy to do that, because I do think if you want to keep, I'm listening to these questions, I'm blown away. You are thoughtful, wonderful, amazing, capable students, and we just want to see you, fly the way you are able to fly. So yes, definitely reach out to people, dig deep, find your fight, know that you're going to face adversity, but just push yourself that little bit more than when you want to give up.
I want to add to that. I think that's such smart advice. Look for people. You've already identified you have 5 guidance counselors who are spread too thin. And so obviously do the work with that guidance counselor. But there are life guidance counselors. These school board members, all of them I've met, they all are here to try to figure out how to connect you to your future, to your best education here and your best future. So reach out. I think when I was your age, I was really shy. I did not have the capacity to say, could you really help me here? I'm struggling with this problem. I really didn't have that capacity. But you guys are way far ahead of me where I was. Reach out to people. People that, as you say, somebody who you see in a job that maybe you aspire to. Somebody that you see got into a school that you would like to go to. Somebody in a field that you're just curious about. You'd be amazed at how people want to reach back into you. So find yourself your own personal guidance counselors. And really realize, don't be discouraged. It's heartbreaking to hear the way you so beautifully laid out that problem of motivation. But don't be discouraged. This is a growing economy. This is a country that does seek greater justice, even though we seem to be in an extraordinarily hard path right now. So, a very, very bright future is ahead for you and your friends. You do need to plan, but latch on to people to help you. Yes?
I know this is off topic.
Nothing to offer.
But everything else that people are saying about communication and stuff, but I was wondering more like religiously, how we have Christian holidays where kids are on, some Jewish holidays where kids are on, Muslim holidays where kids are on. It's like we have to go to school. There's some days where we have to go to school to go do that. Since last year we had end of week test, and during that week, it was the end of Ramadan, we had to miss school to go pray at the mosque. And we had to miss a test too. It was like our own time to go take the test early, and then we could go out of school and do that. Like my own cousin had to miss going to pray at the mosque to take her own test because she couldn't do it early.
Well, I think you just petitioned the school and the school system to recognize Muslim holidays. We absolutely should. So thanks for bringing it up. But you're really raising a larger problem that we don't really recognize and espouse the very thing we were founded on, which was religious freedom. That is one of the foundations of our democracy. People came here so that they would be able to enjoy freedom of religion, freedom from religion, freedom to worship the way that they choose and they believe. And we know that we're far behind in terms of embracing the Muslim community. And we have an administration that actually tried to demonize other religions. So we have a long way to go. I think you did just petition the school system to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. I'm glad you raised that.
All right, we only have like 5 minutes. Can we give Amanda the green here? That's like,
Like the glasses. It's very cool.
So the one thing that you talked about is school safety. Are you pushing or having it mandatory for there to be security in schools? Because the one thing at the school is that you're not allowed to have book bags carrying around, but I feel like that doesn't really help because it has already started the process of this person coming in and starting with getting these starts. So are you pushing anything towards that?
Toward greater school safety measures for every single school?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our budget, the Pennsylvania budget, we just passed more dollars for safety grants so schools can tool up, retool. Again, it has to be equitably distributed. So the schools that have fewer resources have more in terms of the school safety and grants. I'm not sure where Norristown system is with the application for grants. I'll be happy to follow on that. Do you feel that your security here is adequate? Do you feel safe as you walk in? Yeah, we'll take that. But if you see gaps in security, you feel free to raise them to your administration, your teachers. I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. And what's the rule on backpacks? No backpacks.
No backpacks.
No backpacks.
Fully in classroom to walk away, we can't get everything back in the office.
Leave your bags. As I said, we have more of our school students than we do with backpacks. Absolutely.
All right, before you guys go, can we do photo? Is that cool?
Can I just say a big thank you to you? I thank you